Alright, welcome back. In our last crafting video we covered off the basics of going around and learning the gathering skills and actually going out into the world and gathering the particular mats. Very briefly at the end we came to the crafting area here and started to actually turn the materials that we'd gathered into something useful. So we'll pick up where that left off. So again, I was in my skill book. I'd gone to the area where I had smelting, carpentry and extraction, which were given to me when I learnt my gathering skills, and I've popped them on my hotbar over here. So let's bring up the carpentry one, which is the wood cutting version, if you like. And once again, in your particular list right at the beginning, there won't be as many here. You learn these as you go out throughout the game, but you will have something called ash timber. So to recap, we've been gathering this stuff called ash wood, and its name is white. Basically, this recipe for ash timber says if you have 2 ash wood that we've gathered, you can make 1 ash timber. Now notice that the ash timber name is in green. So basically ash timber becomes a useful material. So, you know, we've taken the raw material ash wood that we've gathered from the world, and we're going to turn that into ash timber, which then other professions can use to actually turn into useful goods. So in order to do that, all we do is we select this, and again I'll close all the windows and start again. We select the carpentry crafting skill, if you like. I choose the recipe I want to make, which in this case is ash timber. It tells me I need 2 ash wood to make 1 ash timber, and all I have to do is hit craft, and I'll close the window while we do this. You can see her there, she starts to craft, and watch down the bottom here, you'll see something go into my backpack, and you'll see in the chat too. So if we have a look now in my backpack, you'll see that I've made a thing called ash timber. Okay, so that's green. I'll put them together. Ash wood, the raw material, is white. The actual useful material that I've made from that ash timber is green. All right, so we'll bring that up again. Now in the crafting UI, I can actually queue up a number to make it once. So I can say, hey, I want to craft 10 of these in one go, or I can just hit the max button, which basically crafts as many as I can based on how many raw materials I've got. Alright, so now let's say, if you remember in the last video, we gathered wood, we gathered ore, and we gathered herbs. So let's talk about the herbs. So in order to do that, I can't do that at the carpentry area. And in fact, if I bring up the herbalist crafting UI, I can make something called a mountain demon grass bundle. So again, I have, whoops, that's my phone. I've gone and gathered a whole bunch of mountain demon grass, and if I wish 2 of those, I can turn into a mountain demon grass bundle, and that bundle can be used in other professions such as tailoring and cooking and alchemy later on. But if I go to craft one of those now, it pops up an error. It says you need to be near alchemy tools to make or process items. So I actually have to go over to the alchemy tool, which is again these things which have the great big green arrow on them. So now that I'm near here, I can bring up my extraction or alchemy UI, say, hey, yep, I want to make some mountain demon grass bundles from the raw demon grass that I've made. So again, I just choose how many I want to make, and that's dependent on how many raw materials I have, of course. Hit craft, and she's making those, and there we go. So in my backpack now I have, there we go, some mountain demon grass bundle. And again, that's green because that's something that's useful to crafters versus the raw material. Now every time I do this, if I hit craft and actually make something, it's also going to increase my, in this case, herbalist level. So it's not only gathering that increases these levels, it's also turning them into useful tools, or rather processing the raw materials will actually help you level these particular gathering skills. So let's quickly go over to the mining area. If you remember from my last video, he was the first person that we went and saw, mining instructor, and you'll see a familiar green arrow there. Sure enough, there's some blacksmithing tools here. If I bring up my smelting UI, The raw materials that I was gathering from the mining nodes were zinc ore, and sure enough I can make something called zinc sand, which is here in the green writing, from 2 zinc ores. So again, same thing, I just choose what I want to make, choose how many I wish to make, and hit craft. And I can close that window, and you'll see, there we go, I've now made something called zinc sand. So again, zinc ore is the raw material, zinc sand is the useful material that other crafters can actually use to make something. Now, that's basically it. It's pretty simple. You've learnt the 3 gathering professions, and with those gathering professions, again in the K screen, you learnt smelting, and you learnt extraction, and you learnt carpentry. So you can now gather materials and make useful things out of them. Crafting does get more complicated than that, however. And once you get to Logar, you'll discover that there's some other trainers. So we'll, rather than run all the way up to Logar, I've got a handy little spell here which will teleport me to Logar directly. So we'll quickly whip there, and I'll show you the next part of crafting, which is the professions rather than the gathering component. Alright, so here we are in Logar. And again, we're up at this windmill here. We were down in Pioneer's Colony before. You'll eventually make your way here. Mailbox, housemaid. But one thing you'll come across are some profession trainers. And we'll use, say, cooking in this instance. So you'll come across an NPC that looks like this, cooking instructor. And not only that, but we've got a crafting station here, and it's called cooking tools. All you need to do at the very beginning of the game, I think there's 8 professions. You just talk to this person and say, "Hi, I'd like to learn cooking, please." And again, I think it's free actually. I can't remember, to be honest. If it's not free, it's not very much. Once you've done that, you can then wander around this village and pick up a whole bunch of professions. And I'll close the gathering window here. You'll end up with all of these, which is the production. Now, I haven't picked up all of them because I know I'm not going to use all of them, but there's things like blacksmithing, carpentry, armor crafting, tailoring, cooking, alchemy, all sorts of things. And seeing where, in fact, no, I'll wander around the corner. I'll show you a couple more. I think around here, there we go, there's a weapon crafter, there's a blacksmith, an armor craft instructor there. Pretty sure there's a tailoring instructor here. Yep, there we go. So again, you would just talk to this person and say, "Hi, I'd like to learn tailoring, please." They also sell recipes. So in other words, they're recipes for items that you can make, in this case in tailoring. So I can make some rough cloth garments, some magical leggings. As you can see, there's level restrictions. So the more tailoring you do, and in my case I'm only level 1, the more tailoring, the more you level up, which means you can have access to these higher level recipes, which obviously make better gear. And just like before, crafting with things like tailoring and alchemy is very simple. It's you'll find the skills in the K skill window. You just drag them out to your skill bar. If I bring up something like the tailoring menu here, it's very simple. I click on a recipe, in this case rough cloth pants. It says, look, you need 2 ash timber and you need 2 mountain demon grass bundle. Now, as you know, if you watched my earlier video, that's what we were actually gathering before. We were gathering ash wood and mountain grass. We turned those through our wood crafting into ash timber and mountain demon grass bundle. So now I can use those useful ingredients, and it requires 2 ash timber, 1 demon grass bundle, to actually make a pair of rough cloth pants. And all I do is hit the craft button there, and I won't do it now, and I would actually end up making these pants. Obviously, I'd want to do that more and more and more so I can raise my level, so I can start buying much better recipes off this vendor. Also, recipes drop out in the world as well. You get much better recipe drops. In fact, there's one there that I've picked up off some mob. That's for a enhanced robe. It's got all sorts of stats, magical stats on it. I could make that if I had tailoring up to level 12. And that's it. Hope that helps get you into crafting in Runes of Magic. Have fun. Bye-bye.